We're live, pal.
Welcome everyone to a Wednesday edition of the A-Side Live Chat. Yes, we are back on Wednesdays. I know last week was weird. We did a Tuesday, but that never even aired because of technical issues with my good buddy Matt Wells joining us. So let's redo it all over again with no technical issues this time, joining us for the second week in a row. Hopefully he can actually answer questions this time without YouTube dying on us, is Mr. Matt Wells. Matt, how's life been the last 8 days since we last chatted?
It's been more 2020 as 2020 can be. I guess that's the best way to put it. You know, got a lot of personal family stuff going on, but hey, I'm here again. I'm glad to be invited back, man. And hopefully the YouTube holds up this time so we can have a nice smooth show.
One would hope, but knowing the A-Side Live Chat and technical difficulties, something will pop up, whether it be weird audio, weird video, lagging, who knows, but fingers crossed. But Casey, you're back in Englewood after how long were you gone? A week?
About
6
a
days?
week. About a week. I actually I was forced to take a slight vacation. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's back. I'm back in the real world, and yay! Good to see you guys.
Of those 7 days you were out, how many of those days did you spend outside in nature?
Oh man, at least. Yeah, most. We want. It was actually we were planning a big camping trip, but because of all the dang fires and the earth burning to death right now, made the air kind of crappy. So we didn't get to camp as much, but I did spend a lot of time hiking and just out in the river and just being a fool. So
it was New Mexico you were at?
Yeah, we were down in New Mexico and stuff, just riding mountains. Just getting all naturey.
Yeah, that week I was gone. Between the two A-Side episodes, I think I spent 5 of the 6 days outside. So yes, it's glorious to get outside now and then. But as no one wants to hear about our vacations, they want to talk about fish fighting and anything else they want to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about basketball, baseball. Probably not, because no one cares about baseball in 2020. Actually, it doesn't even exist. And Casey's a big Rockets fan. Matt is not, so maybe there'll be a fight. But as you know, this is not our podcast. This is your podcast. You can ask a question on Twitter, the site, the YouTube comments. We might even go a little longer to make up for last week. Who knows? But Casey, what is our first question? Yes, Jessica, Crystal Crew. Ooh, thanks for reminding me. I actually want to give a shout out at the end of the podcast, but we'll wait. So, What do we got?
First question. This is actually a question we got from 2 weeks ago when Matt, last week, I think, and then everything crashed, but.
So we'll answer it again from MMG2K20 on Twitter. Can Woodley still be considered one of the best welterweights of all time, having lost his last 10 rounds? Also, have you seen Dana's guns lately? Do you think he passed USADA test? So yes, we answered this question briefly last week, but I think YouTube
we never
destroyed
aired it,
us.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever aired. So Matt, I'll start with you since we started with you last time. Can we still consider Tyron Woodley one of the greatest welterweights of all time?
Well, I guess I will give the same answer I tried to give last time. Okay, I'll here we go. It depends on what happens in 2.5 weeks time with the Colby Covington fight to still be considered in that conversation. And when I say conversation, I mean that top 2 or 3. So he's still top 5 all time easily, in my opinion, because of that run that he was on. But if he goes out there and redeems himself with a nice dominant win over Colby Covington, and then whatever he does from that going forward, if he gets another win after that, then yeah, you got to keep him in that conversation. But if he goes out there and loses, and especially if he loses all 5 rounds to Colby Covington, then yeah, you kind of got to diminish his legacy a little bit for losing his last 3 fights dominantly. You just can't go out there and get waxed like that, especially when the start of that is losing your title.
Yeah, I think the fact that this Twitter user is saying it's at it, he's lost 10 rounds in a row. It's not like he had back-to-back fight of the nights. It's not like he had back-to-back split decisions. He's lost 50 minutes of fighting in a row inside the octagon, which, yeah, maybe he won a round or 2, but I didn't score any of those rounds for him. I think he got swept by Usman. He got swept by Burns. Looked like he was in a deer in the headlights against Gilbert Burns, and those were more than a year apart. So it's not like he had anything in between. So the last 2 fights we've seen of Tyron Woodley, he's lost every round. Casey, can we still consider Tyron Woodley one of the greatest welterweights of all time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like absolutely. Yeah, he's lost 10 rounds in a row, but I mean, has he walked? But at those 10 rounds, he still walked out of the cage.
Correct.
Fine. It wasn't like it wasn't like he was just getting 10-8 of these rounds, or at least with like just pure like just punishment. He just looked like he was. I mean, Tyron Woodley's. I mean, he's 37, 38 now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
something like that.
Yeah. So that's just. I mean, unfortunately, just Father Time got him. I think he's just past his. I think his prime. I think he's still a top 10 welterweight. But as far as best welterweights of all time, yeah, you have to. You got to look at when his prime was, and his championship run, even counting his Strikeforce fights, were incredible. You know, I think minus that Marquardt knockout. You know, that was is Marquardt the only guy to finish? Oh, I'm sorry,
Marquardt.
I'm sorry, Lawler. No, yeah. Oh, no, he beat Lawler.
Yeah,
he knocked
Woodley
out Lawler.
beat Lawler.
Yeah.
Knocked out Lawler, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, but who was knocked out Woodley? Like actually, just.
I think the only one I can think of is really Marquardt.
Yeah, so all his losses have been kind of like kind of fights, you know, outside of the Marquardt one. But no, I just think it's kind of silly to say that Woodley isn't one of the all-time greats at welterweight. I just think he's not at his prime anymore. But you know, you can't be there forever. That's all.
Yeah, he's only lost by stoppage once, and his other losses are to Jake Shields by split, Rory McDonald, which he got absolutely dominated in
that was a bad one.
Vancouver, and then Usman Burns. So again, he's not losing to bums. He's losing to the best of the best and knocking out. Like, he's submitted Till, he's KO Lawler. He fought Kelvin Gastelum to a split decision. I actually don't think that was a split. I think Tyron Woodley should deserve the unanimous decision in that, but I see the argument there. Gastelum also came in like 8 pounds heavy or something like that. That was the Super Bowl weekend, or was it? Was that the Diaz Silva card? I can't remember. But right now, in my opinion, the argument for Woodley is he the second best? It's between him and Matt Hughes right now. I think we all agree that GSP is the greatest welterweight of all time. I think Tyron Woodley was on his way to reaching that if he didn't lose to Usman so badly. But it's between Woodley and Matt Hughes. I don't have it. And whoever's not second is third, and then Usman is right there. Because, again, Usman is sneakily piling up a pretty impressive UFC resume. And then as we've had a million questions this past 7 days, apparently Neil Magny has to be considered top 10 welterweight of all time because he's like 3 wins away from being the all-time winningest welterweight in UFC history. But let's have that conversation when it happens.
Yeah. That feels kind of weird saying that Neil Magny
feels fair.
is like, I mean, he's got, statistically, yes, he has lots of wins. But let's just let's keep it positive. Yeah. Magny.
And then, Matt, have you seen Dana White's guns lately?
I have seen them.
Tell me more in detail.
Yeah, they're very swollen, almost unnatural. Like,
I think he's on that Matt Serra diet right now. That
right, got a lot of horse meat in his diet, huh?
That Matt Serra, Joe Rogan diet, if you know what I mean.
For sure. I mean, look, Dana's always been a little bit big. He was on the cover of what was that, Men's whatever, Men's Health.
Yeah.
You know, he stays in the gym. He's got gyms around him.
He's got gyms around him. Anyway, he was on the cover of Men's Health wearing a shirt. Come on, man. If you're going to be on Men's Health, at least show off the pythons.
You remember that photo of him, like this big photo shoot of them on a beach with
Ryan Bader and like Verdun. They're all wearing like leather jackets.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre photo I've seen. I think.
Remember the one where Dana was on the beach and he wouldn't jump off the cliff when all the kids were jumping off and they were making fun of him? Remember that one?
I sure do.
That one was fun too. He looked kind of swole there too.
He always looks a little swollen. He's no Lorenzo Fertitta, who oddly got into powerlifting in later stages of his life. But yeah,
when you're a billionaire,
you just keep curling those stacks of $1,000 bills. You know, it's like, oh man.
$1,000 bills, man. He's curling gold bricks, Scrooge McDuck style.
Yeah, he just dives in. He's swimming through gold coins. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, dude. You know how good a cardio workout that is?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible.
You gotta be super strong to actually move gold like you're swimming.
Yeah, for real. Anyway, thank you for the question, MMG 2K20. A look into the future from hashtag #1HeartSurgeon. I really hope that is an Office reference. Will International Fight Week 2021 be a thing? If so, what does it look like? What are your predictions for big fights that could shape up between now and then? And what hypothetical fights do you want to see? Also, more importantly, I added more importantly. Does Casey agree with the decision handed out in this week's Between the Links? I thought Jose was robbed. Well, I 100% was robbed. It's all one big conspiracy. I have not seen one comment saying Judd Michoud deserved that win. So, yes, I was robbed based on statistics. It's 100% in my favor. Anyway, Matt, if International Fight Week happens, it's 2021, July 2021, what are you expecting?
I expect the UFC to pull off something in some form or fashion. I would like to think that by that time we're back to normal. So I would expect a usual fight week. I don't know if like the fight week convention sort of thing, the fan expo is going to be the same or look the same, but I'd imagine they're going to throw something together in some capacity. I mean, they're literally trying to build a city in Las Vegas just for UFC right now. So they're going to figure out something to make it work. As far as big fights, I mean, I think we can expect the usual big names. I think we could see a Conor McGregor fight go down around that time, since he's not fighting the rest of this year. Maybe if Conor comes back in like January, February, we could see him back in again July time, for International Fight Week. So I don't think it's going to look that different than what we're used to. Hopefully.
Casey, your thoughts? I have a few ideas, but I'd like to hear yours first.
On International Fight Week next year, July 2021.
Correct.
You know what? I'm just gonna be positive and just assume there will be a July 2021.
Jesus.
So, you know what? Honestly, like at this point, if we're in a state that we can actually have International Fight Week next year. At this point, where with fans and actual any sort of amount of people, more than just essential personnel, that's a positive. And if we actually get any fights, I'll be happy. So I'm not even, my mind, that's so far away right now. That's to me that's like asking, like I don't know, like what's gonna be the first pay-per-view on Mars? It's like I'm sure there will be eventually, right. But. I'm sure Conor, Brock, Jon Jones, DC, Anderson, Chuck Liddell, Tito. Yeah, they'll all be on it. I just think like this country is in this pandemic right now. That's just, that's a lot of forward thinking.
Now, I know normally I say I don't like to predict things 1 week from now, let alone almost a year from now. But for this scenario, I'll say 2021 International Fight Week happens. I think 4 days ago I would have a much different answer. But now that Brock Lesnar is quote unquote free agent, I would imagine he'd be on it. I would imagine he would probably fight someone like Jon Jones or Stipe or Francis or whoever, depending on what the heavyweight title picture, what happens with the heavyweight title picture. Because I like the scenario, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but I want Brock to fight Jon Jones and I want Stipe to fight Francis. Then the winners can fight each other on International Fight Week, or they can do the original plan that they've been talking about up until very recently, which is Jon Jones, Israel Adesanya, 2021. Because remember, that's what Izzy said. He goes, let me clean out my division, and then I'll fight you International Fight Week 2021. Because remember, Jon Jones kept saying, can 2021 get here faster? Like, he really wants to fight Izzy, so. I would imagine Brock would be on there, but now that Jon is a heavyweight, maybe they'll probably try and toss him in there. Amanda Nunes will probably be somewhere on there. I like Matt said Conor, but I think it really depends on if fans are going to be in attendance, because you don't want to lose a Conor McGregor gate, especially an international fight where people are trying to fly in. But I want to see Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya so badly. I think that's my number one dream fight right now, for a fight that probably won't happen anytime soon, but I'll give like a 5% chance of happening. But I want that fight so bad, so I'm going to will it into existence.
Brock Lesnar is going to be probably a week shy of 44 years old by the time next.
That's a young, spry chicken in the heavyweight division.
Can I ask a question about the Conor card thing?
Shoot, partner.
Like, how would you guys feel if they just raised the price of that Conor pay-per-view if there were no fans? Like, doubled the price?
Depends on who he's fighting.
Fair enough.
Wait, double the price for what? To make
since there would be no Conor gate, no live gate for a Conor card, which is like one of the things that they're concerned about losing. Just raise the price of the pay-per-view. How would you feel about that?
So double it, so it'd be $140 for like
not necessarily double it, but obviously increase it. Maybe
like
50% increase.
So like, what was Conor Mayweather? Was that $100?
That was 89, right?
Yeah,
was 89.
Yeah.
If they put it like that, fine, but I think it would have to depend on who he's fighting. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, I'll pay $89 just to watch Conor fight Justin Gaethje. I don't even need another fight on that card.
Facts.
You guys are crazy. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. Like, I just don't. I don't. It's like, to me, like, okay, Conor's. I mean, from like a media standpoint and like people interest and stuff. Yeah, Conor. But like, man, it's just as me as a fan. I was like, oh, it's just he's just another guy to me. I don't. Like,
sure.
I mean, but I don't see paying more money. I mean, unless I don't know. Is it? And this is all just coming off the Cerrone win. Is that what we're basing everything off?
Probably. I can't imagine you'd fight any time in between this.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you like your boy, you like your boy, I guess.
Habib rematch. You paying more?
No, definitely not. I'd rather just go watch a bear fight a monkey.
All right.
Because that's gonna be the same thing.
How much you pay for that?
Kind of monkey.
Oh, yeah. See, the devil's in the details.
Bear.
Devil's in details.
Yeah. If it's like a grizzly bear versus like a gorilla, oh man, I'd pay a lot of money for that. Like an orangutan, though, I'm not gonna want to watch an orangutan get beat up by a bear. I love orangutans too much. But Casey, I doubt you've heard it, but you should go watch Between the Links, and then you can agree with everyone else.
Did Jed keep the title?
Did Jed keep the title? I'm still undefeated in my mind.
In your mind.
As Sugar Sean said, I got an L on paper. I'm still undefeated. And you know what? In the eyes of the fans, I'm still undefeated. So I don't even want to hear this whole "did Jed keep his title" tomfoolery.
Hey, when you're champ, when you're an all-time great, Jed's gonna be just a journeyman, and no one's gonna remember that guy. Yeah.
Jed's gonna be still cosplaying as Squid from Rocket Power at all the kids' birthdays, and I'm gonna be up there holding my BTL championship for years to come. Still undefeated and undisputed.
Congratulations.
Anyway, I know. Thank you. Congratulations. From Stuart Tuckwell on Twitter, who can Leon Edwards fight next? It feels like everyone at the top of the welterweight division are doing everything they can to avoid having to fight him. Hashtag the A side. Well, you're not wrong. I thought Masvidal Edwards was probably going to happen, or had a good shot of happening, just because Jorge Masvidal, after his loss to Kamaru Usman, said he wanted to get right back in there, get a win, and fight for the title again, because he thinks he can beat Usman. And I think Leon Edwards was the fight to make, especially because Covington and Woodley are already fighting. But now, like 24 hours ago, Masvidal Diaz II might happen for the BMF title in January 2021. So, sorry, Leon. Looks like you're going to have to fight Wonderboy Thompson, which is like the next man up, I guess. But Matt, what do you think?
It's got to be Wonderboy, or if not Wonderboy, it's got to be like a Chiesa, right? Those are the only two fights that make sense for him, since he keeps getting screwed.
And I think Chiesa just had surgery, so I don't even know how 100% he is.
Dang, that's right. Well, next down the list is RDA. Well, Damian Maia, but I don't know.
RDA is going to lightweight.
Yeah, so it's like he's just getting screwed. He's just left in the dust right now. Everybody else is getting fights. He keeps getting passed over. He was scheduled for a big fight, and then, things happened.
He was supposed to fight Woodley, and then he was supposed to fight Woodley, and then Gilbert Burns beats Woodley, and now Gilbert Burns is fighting for the title. That could be Leon Edwards right now, for all we know.
They made the most badass promo for Leon Edwards.
Yes,
and he still has not had a fight.
Did.
That promo ruled.
Jesus.
And honestly, I never had a really big interest in Leon Edwards. I think until I saw that promo. I mean, as a fan, I saw that promo. I was like, hot dang! I gotta see this man fight.
100%.
And then the whole world collapsed, and here we are talking to Matthew Wells on Skype.
Exactly right.
I think it has to be. I think the Wonderboy fight's the only fight to make right now, because it's and that's not even like, it's just next man up. Like, if he wants to fight, that has to be the only. If he wants to fight someone that's high ranked, it's be the only one left, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I mean, no. Leon Edwards versus future welterweight Hall of Famer Neil Magny.
Yeah. All right. No, I still want Neil on Neil.
Okay,
Yeah,
but I think actually the question we're not answering, I think this is actually the real question though for Leon Edwards. In all seriousness, what does Leon Edwards need to do to get into that? I don't want to call it. He's already an elite welterweight, but that elite prize fighting welterweight, where like we know he's good, but can if I'm Masvidal, if I'm Nate Diaz, can I make money fighting Leon Edwards? What does Leon Edwards need to do?
He needs to live in the United States, which is unfortunate.
Okay, Darren Till don't do that. He's one of those money guys, so.
Fair. I think he needs highlights of him stopping people. Yeah. Because he doesn't have any of those. He has dominant wins. He absolutely pieced up RDA, absolutely pieced up Cerrone, pieced up Gunnar Nelson, but he didn't put them to bed. He didn't what happened when Darren Till fought Cerrone. He just put him to sleep, and then he beat Wonder Boy, and then this is why the London card falling out was so unfortunate, because Darren Till, when he fought in Liverpool, had that scene where everyone was going berserk when he was fighting and doing well, and when he won and all that, and then they could show that forever, and then he fought for the title. If Leon Edwards had that performance in London with the crowd going nuts, I think that would have been amazing for his career, but he didn't get that, especially after that whole promo you guys said. So needs a big marquee win in front of a crazy crowd. I'm sorry, Matt. Beating RDA in Texas is not the same as beating Woodley in London.
No, it's not. And the funny thing is, I asked Leon before that fight, like, how do you not become the Tony Ferguson of this division? And he didn't have a good answer. So I think your answer was probably the best thing. Like, you got to get more highlights. You got to be a little bit more assertive when it comes to like interviews and things like that, and legit like demand your position. Right? Like, he should be out there. Like, he should be on social media. He is on social media actually calling people out a little bit, but it's just not sticking for whatever reason.
It's unfortunate. Like, do you remember that press conference with Gunnar Nelson? Him and Darren Till were basically screaming at each other the entire time. Like, I remember texting like some of my like Pizzi and like Oscar, and they're like, why is this not the fight? Like, Darren Till versus Leon Edwards in London, they seemed much more interested at the time than obviously Masvidal, who then destroyed Darren Till and became what he is. Like, it's just unfortunate that Leon's missing out on these opportunities that I think a lot of us agree he should be given that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna bit of an argument here. You said that he needs like a big finish, like Darren Till has or whatever. Like, it's more about his in-cage performance. Darren Till hasn't had a serious like knockout highlight since October of 2017.
Right.
I mean, we're talking like 3 years ago. And
when is Leon Edwards last, though?
But that's what I mean. Like, we're talking 3 years ago with Darren Till, sure. And he's still riding this momentum from knocking out Donald Cerrone.
I think it's
and
also
that's why I think it's so interesting. We still want to see Darren Till, even though, you know, I mean, you just look at his record. I mean, his last 4 or 5 fights is like, you know, Woodley dominated him. We're crapping on fans are kind of crapping on Tyron Woodley, but Woodley dominated Darren Till like no one else has. You know, and like he doesn't get credit for that for some reason. Masvidal just slaughtered him. The Kelvin Gastelum fight was kind of like, we just don't want to. That was just a bad memory. You know, sure. It just hadn't happened. And the Robert Whittaker fight, while a good match, a good competitive fight, you know, he lost. And I don't really remember any big highlights from Darren Till, really. It's just, it was a good fight, you know, obviously. But
I think the UFC machine just got behind Darren Till, and that's why we see him with rosy colors. Because they put a lot. They really 100%. Wanted him to beat Tyron Woodley. They're not giving Leon Edwards the rub like they gave Darren Till. Also, I think Leon Edwards has just been overshadowed by, like, he beats Gunnar Nelson, and then Masvidal just crushes Darren Till, and then the 3-piece in the soda happens, and he's on the wrong side of that. And then he beats Donald Cerrone at like 2 a.m. over here. And then he beats RDA on a random fight night in Texas that I don't know a lot of fight fans that watch that. So he's getting these big wins, but people just, it's getting overshadowed. And when Darren Till's getting these big wins, it's like still like beating Kelvin Gastelum in Madison Square Garden, coming off a fight of the year, fight of ever, Kelvin still had a big name. Donald Cerrone, beating Donald Cerrone at 2 a.m. It's not the same.
No.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think for the Edwards, I think you kind of I think you actually nailed it when he said just the UFC PR machine. I mean, we talk about that promo, that awesome promo about Leon Edwards. Remember, that wasn't done by the UFC. That was done by BT Sport. Right? That was actually done for broadcasters in England. It wasn't for American audience. We just happened to see it. But I don't recall Dana White getting in front of a mic, after a press conference and just going, "This Leon Edwards kid, oh my God, he is a monster. That guy is an animal. He's,
Bro.
Have I forgotten that, or has Dana just never just done that whole promoter talk? Like this guy, he's ruthless, or is like Joe Rogan just gone off and just man, he's an animal, and like he just I don't know. I just don't remember hearing people talk about Leon Edwards that way. At least the UFC people.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So.
You're not wrong.
I felt completely bad for Leon Edwards too. Like
I think the one thing he has going for him is Kamaru Usman's brought Leon Edwards up a lot in interviews because Kamaru's like, I was there. Or like, remember when Kamaru Usman was in this same scenario where he's just taking fights to take fights? I think Leon Edwards has to do the same thing. Like when we interviewed him at Dominance Media Day case, you remember like Kamaru Usman was like, I took that fight against RDA, and then I offered to fight on like a month notice to save that January pay-per-view, and then it didn't work out. I cut weight to serve as a backup for Woodley, Till, and Dallas, and then he took that fight against Damian Maia in what was it, Chile? So he's taking these fights that maybe aren't big names, but he's taking fights for the UFC. And then eventually, Colby Covington, like regardless of what you feel about Colby Covington, he should have fought Tyron Woodley before Kamaru. He was the interim champion, and they hated each other. Like that fight should have happened. Kamaru Usman got the shot probably because he did the UFC a lot of favors. Unfortunately, Leon Edwards can't probably do as many favors because of the pandemic right now, so it's not like he can take a short notice fight in the U.S. if he's stuck in London right now, but who knows? But Kamaru Usman seems to think that played a big factor, and when we interviewed Corey Sandhagen, he took a huge notice because he's like, I'm cutting weight just in case Jose Aldo couldn't make weight. This is when the fight was going to happen in the United States, so I think that'll play a big factor too.
Yeah.
Unfortunate all around.
So there's nothing on the table for Edwards, right? There's like, no one's even like.
There's nothing, dude. He's got to start showing up to these fights. I think that's the next best thing. And in COVID times, just start showing up. Just start showing up. Just be there. Demand to be cage side or something. That'll be interesting because nobody's doing that, right?
Just come back. Have your little cotton swab. Look, I'm ready. Like test me.
Yeah.
Send me in there, coach.
There you go. Put that on your Instagram live. Be like, stand outside, demand to be tested. I want to be cage side for this fight. I'm calling out whoever wins. Do something crazy.
What else is unfortunate that's not helping him is Masvidal's not responding. So Leon Edwards is just yelling into the abyss, and no one's biting on it.
You know what I think it would. I think what would have changed the game for Leon Edwards is after the 2-piece and a soda thing, or 3-piece and a soda thing. If he went out there and knocked out RDA in like 10 seconds, the world would be vastly different for Leon Edwards. Because then you can make all sorts of hype machine pieces on that. But what happened was 5 rounds of just,
smart, intelligent, technical fighting.
Yeah, it's very, very intelligent fighting, but it's not something that's going to resonate with like the casual. You'd be like, tune in for 5 rounds of Leon Edwards being really slick in the pocket. Like, I mean,
he just needs to take fights. I think he just got to fight. Max Holloway said it. I like Max Holloway said it when he was on this big run. He's like, I'm just gonna keep winning until they can't deny it. Like, don't ask for the money fight, become the money fight. So if he just keeps winning and winning and winning and winning, it's not like they could say no over and over again. Yeah. I mean, I guess they could, in the UFC, but who knows?
As long as he kept getting louder and louder and louder after each one. I mean, eventually people are going to be like, give him his shot.
Because you don't want to become the Asuncao of the division where you win like 12 in a row and you never get to be interviewed by Joe Rogan. Then he's like, I don't like to talk. I just win. I'm like, you need to say something, guy. You have a win over the then champion TJ Dillashaw. That's all you should be talking about.
A huge part of this game is personality. Huge part.
So basically, just be a fool.
Yeah. Act a fool,
and then you'll get paid more.
From Callum Barnes on Twitter, should Jones wait for the winner of Miocic and Ngannou plus bulk up right for heavyweight, or jump in straight away with a prize fight? For example, Lesnar. Yes. Lesnar, Jones, Stipe, Francis, winners fight each other. I think Jones beats Brock Lesnar whether he bulks up or not. Honestly, I think Jon Jones has one of, if not the best fight IQ in the history of MMA. And Brock Lesnar is just a freak of nature. Like, don't even cut weight. Just have him go in there and fight. That's just like old school UFC style. So I like that scenario because if Brock Lesnar, for if something crazy happens and he beats Jon Jones at heavyweight, how are you not going to give him a title fight? You beat the greatest fighter of all time, and then Jones goes there, gets his big prize fight, wins. Like, sorry, Curtis Blades. Jon Jones gets the next shot. But Matt, what do you think?
I think that this question is asking the same thing because a prize fight is Jon Jones and Miocic. Like, that's the super fight. You have the GOAT of light heavyweight against arguable, should be considered GOAT of heavyweight in Miocic. Why would you not want to put that together without any further, like, Jones doesn't need to prove anything at heavyweight. Like, what's a win at heavyweight going to do over whoever it is? Be like, oh, Jon Jones is Jon Jones. Like, we all know that. Just because he's doing it at a heavier weight, I don't think that does much to improve his stock, so to speak. Like, he's already got the biggest name possible. Put him against the other biggest name possible right away. Like, don't jeopardize this fight anymore. Initially when he said he was going to go to heavyweight, I was like, okay, yeah, let's see what Jon looks like at heavyweight first. Give him somebody else. But now that, like, after thinking about it and, thinking about it more and more, it just doesn't make any sense to have Jon fight anybody other than Stipe right out of the gate. Because depending on how that fight goes, if it's a decision, you can set up rematches. If it's a interesting fight, you can set up rematches. If it's dominance, then all right, Jon Jones wins dominantly over Stipe. Give him Francis Ngannou. Like, the fights just sell themselves. Either way, I don't know.
I will counter, and I honestly, unfortunately, I think of the three names, Brock, Francis, Stipe, I think Jon Jones versus Stipe is gonna drum up the least amount of interest. Outside of just the GOAT versus the GOAT, I think the big money fight is Jones-Lesnar. I think Jon Jones beats Brock Lesnar 10 out of 10 times. I think Brock Lesnar loses to a lot of the top heavyweights, so if you want the big money fight right away, make that fight right now. Also, I just don't want Francis to get skipped over. I think he's done more than enough to earn that shot. And then if Francis beats Stipe and Jon Jones beats Lesnar, I think that's another big money fight. If you just like high-level martial arts, the best fight is Stipe-Jon Jones. That's easy. But we know Stipe is not the best dance partner when it comes to promoting. And Jon Jones has said he enjoys building this fight and selling and selling and selling. So if he wants for his legacy, go fight Stipe. If he wants to make the most money, I think it's Brock Lesnar. What do you think, Casey?
Oh, I agree. Jones-Lesnar, that's the fight. That's the money fight. That's the fight. That's the fight that'll make the most money. And then And then and like you said too, like I'm just gonna repeat what you said. Francis has earned that rematch, and Stipe Francis is the fight to make. And then some other pay-per-view down the line, Lesnar Jones, whatever. I 95% chance that Jones wins that fight. And then if Stipe does beat Francis in the rematch and Jones beats Lesnar, then that fight really is a truly great fight. So I think until Stipe beats Francis again, I think that's what he's missing as far as
beats new Francis.
Beats new Francis, yeah. What we think is new Francis, we don't even know because that's
You're not wrong.
Because he's been so dominant. We just what I mean, like that's the fun.
It's
mystery.
like when we interviewed him on the red carpet, Casey. Remember, I was like, "Do you think you've shown enough to improve?" Like people, like, do you think your performances are showing people that you've improved? He goes, "What else? Like, what do you want me to do, man? Like, I'm winning in like 45 seconds."
Yeah, you're
like,
almost
that answer sticks to me. Like, well, yeah, you're not wrong. Like, but you know what I mean.
Hey, Francis, can you get taken down and grind it out around and come back?
Yeah,
it's like
he's like what? Like you weren't even at when I was waiting to get my plane in Jacksonville. I was sitting next to Francis's coach, and he was like showing some of the media people like what they were working on. The stuff they were working on, like if Francis landed some of that stuff in the fight, oh my god. It's like Francis throwing like spinning back heel kicks and stuff like that. But then he just goes out there with his chin out in the air and just decapitates people. And his coach is like, I mean, I can't really get mad at him for that, but it is what it is.
Hey, man, that's what fighting is, man. Like, you can do all this technical, like, watch the center line, do all this, make sure your angle out. But at the end of the day, man, it's still a freaking fight, man. And you just got to throw bombs sometimes, Like, you can do all this coaching and, technique and stuff, but, like, when you knock you out my chin out like that, it don't matter. It still knocked you out. It's a fight. So I love Francis. I want to see Stipe versus Francis so much. I don't even like. I'm even like. I'm just kind of upset that we're even bringing up Brock Lesnar, considering.
Right.
Yes.
He hasn't had a win in the UFC in a freaking decade. He hasn't won in a decade in the UFC. Yeah, it's like that's a decade. Like, we're so stuck with old storylines that we're still talking about Brock Lesnar.
Unfortunately.
So what's more disrespectful then, putting Jon Jones against Lesnar or Francis against Lesnar, considering that he hasn't won in a decade?
I think it's disrespectful that we're even bringing up Lesnar, to be honest.
You're not wrong.
I'm just being honest.
I will say,
I get people. I get the fans. They want to hear us talk about him and stuff. But like, it's a decade old. He hasn't won in a decade.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but you're not wrong. I mean, if
Macy Barber wasn't even born yet. No, I'm joking.
Pretty close.
I mean,
or something, right?
If they want to make Jon Jones Stipe and then make Francis Brock, I'm not going to argue with Francis fighting Brock Lesnar either. I think that'd just be I don't think that fight lasts 2 minutes, but maybe even a minute. But Francis Brock just looks insane. Just them standing opposite of each other.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that. I'll agree.
Sure.
I actually do like the idea of Francis versus Brock more than Jones versus Brock. I think it's gonna go. It's like when Overeem made his debut against Brock, and they had that poster. It's one of my favorite posters where they're not looking at each other. They're standing parallel, and it's like 6'4", 265, 6'5", 260, and it's like, and it has like all their wins underneath it. I love that. I loved that poster, but I think it looked like that. But then Overeem stood next to Francis too, and Francis dwarfed him. So yeah, I don't care. Just give Brock Lesnar whoever. But again, I want Jones Izzy before any of that.
And I see the people saying that he won in 2016. No, USADA won in 2016. Let's get it right, people.
Mm-hmm.
He did not win in 2016. No. He got a big NC. Yeah, that's what he got. Yeah, and
then went and pieced up Randy Orton at SummerSlam the hard way. Did you watch that match, Matt?
Oh yes.
You didn't watch it, Casey? They have this thing where, you know how there's like blading. They don't allow blading anymore in wrestling. So like if you get hit, you can't cover your eye and like nick yourself to make yourself bleed. They have this way called hard style where Brock cut Randy Orton's forehead open with like shoot elbows, but like without doing any like physical damage. He just like nicked him. So it just looked absolutely brutal on television. Not a good time. Not very uncomfortable to watch.
I don't know how you agree to that in the back. Like, hey, go ahead and elbow me for real right in the forehead until I start bleeding.
Let Brock Lesnar just like slice your forehead open.
Hopefully I stay conscious. Hopefully.
Yeah. And I guess from what I've heard from stories is that a lot of the people backstage weren't told that was the ending. So a bunch of people got really mad at Brock. Like people were confronting him backstage and he's like, hey man, part of the story.
I would love that. See, that's the wrestling I want to see. I want to see these wrestlers going to Brock backstage because like, hey man, what's going on? Why
apparently Chris Jericho got like real heated and like ran up on Brock. Like he didn't come in and get, hey man, he was like, what are you doing? And was like screaming at Brock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
it looked crazy, especially because Brock had just come back from the UFC. So it was like, did Brock forget he's not really fighting? You know, like that sort of thing. Like that's what it looked like on TV.
Ooh. He also like took his gloves. He took his gloves off. His gloves off too, so it was like he was holding him with like a bare hand and just like just crushing his forehead. Oh, it was very uncomfortable to watch.
You loved it. You love it, you weirdos. Freaks. All right. Oh, look, another Jones Lesnar question.
From Sam Harris 999, longtime commenter. Do you think Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar is a good idea, considering Brock is 43, probably on some kind of steroid? Yeah, I want to see Brock Lesnar, Jon Jones really bad. I just like the idea of a really high-level martial artist going up against a man with every physical gift in the world in Brock Lesnar. I just like that stylistic matchup. I think it's a fun fight, and if Brock beats Jones, give him a title shot. You're not going to get any argument with me. And Jon Jones gets his big money fight that he's been seeking for a long time. I think that's the fight to make. Winner fight Stipe Francis. Anything to add, guys?
No. No, unfortunately not.
I just like the term some kind of steroid.
Or as people have pointed out, like, because Scott Coker was like, of course we're interested in Brock Lesnar. Like Fedor Brock at Bellator, like, cool. But you know who else chimed in our Instagram comments? I posted a little clip. It was like, who should Brock fight next? Frank Mir joined in and says, I can think of someone. And then he had like the one finger emoji. I'm like, I mean, Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir 3 at Bellator. It's 2020, 2021 is a weird time, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Do they both get the use of some kind of steroids?
I think
then I would be
there'll be a stipulation where you just get just one kind of steroid. That's it, though. You can't get them all. Right. Just one.
Yeah. Or
they should do some kind of Bellator is very creative. They do some kind of lottery, some sort of game show type thing. Yeah. Or they'll do they'll have a thing where they have Brock and Frank or Brock whoever up there, and Brock gets to pick out of a bowl which steroid to take. What happened to Ryzen?
You picked deer antler spray. What is Cro Cop retired? Right, he's done. Right, he medically can't fight anymore.
Yeah, actually, I think it is a medical issue.
For all those old weird people that love freak fights, like Cro Cop Brock would still be a fun one too, but it's never gonna happen. If Brock still wants to do wrestling, and he signs with AEW, you could just do that weird fight between Jake Hager versus Brock Lesnar to NCAA Like, I don't think Jake won a national championship, but he was still highly decorated. Brock, national champion. Both professional wrestlers. Both, like, Jake Hager's like 6'6" too.
He's a big dude.
He doesn't look
small, man.
He's huge.
Yeah, in person, yeah, he is
in wrestling, he doesn't look big because everyone looks big. But then you also have to remember 205 Live is considered small, and that's what Jon Jones fights at. Like, Jake Hager's taller than John. Jake Hager, I think, is taller than Francis. Which is crazy to me. So if they want to do Jake Hager, Brock Lesnar, and tie it in with AEW, I wouldn't put it past him either.
Is there a chance that Brock can go to AEW? I don't know enough about that kind
I don't
of
know.
world.
I don't know their financial situations, but to me, it would be cool. But I think it would make a lot of money. But I think it would go against a lot of what AEW's original direction was in terms of like.
It feels weird.
It feels weird, but then, like, I think of Brock Lesnar and Kenny Omega, I'm like, oh my God, give me that fight. Give me that match every day of the week.
Okay,
let's get something different.
Dream scenario. Brock versus Fedor, New Year's Eve in Ryzen.
I mean,
then 2 days later, Brock Lesnar makes his debut at Wrestle
New
Kingdom.
Japan?
Yeah. Oh, that was.
Oh.
Brock used to wrestle New Japan back in the day, right? Wait.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that because he won the belt and then kept it hostage.
Oh, is that what I didn't know very much about it, but.
So he beat Nakamura, actually, or I can't remember who he beat, but he wrestled Nakamura and this and that, and then he went back, and then there was some money thing, and then he wouldn't give the belt. He wouldn't give the physical belt back. So they were like, it was a whole. I don't know what the whole situation was. Like, I think he signed an agreement not to wrestle anywhere after WWE let him go, and then he wrestled, and then there was a whole dispute with WWE and New Japan and money, and the New Japan was like, "Give us the belt back." He's like, "Nah, I'm keeping it." So then they had they had to convince him to drop to someone. He would only drop to Kurt Angle. So then Kurt Angle signed with New Japan, and he dropped it to him. Something weird like that. I don't know the exact story. Brock and the red trunks Brock in New Japan.
I want to see Brock in Japan. Well, USADA are not allowed in the country.
There you go. I want to watch Brock fight in a ring anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless, even if it's in like one or something like that.
I think what's gonna happen. We're gonna see Brock fight in some Cam Soda fight circus against like three other.
Yes.
Three other flyweight Muay Thai fighters and like a couple of like sheep or something. I don't know. They'll throw something else in the ring.
Couple of sheep.
Fight circus.
That should be the 2v1, 3v1 even, or just have him do like a real life gauntlet match.
What are those weird like it's like a 3-round tournament. Like first fight's boxing, second fight's kickboxing, third fight's MMA. I'd be into that. Anyway, from Anton Jensen, I have no idea what that profile pic is in the YouTube comments. What would Brock do against Jon? Outstrike him? No. Out-wrestle him? No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's a money fight that Jon easily wins. So I don't want Brock to fight someone else and lose, and then all of a sudden we lose out on the big money fight between Brock and Jon. And again, If Brock doesn't even fight in the UFC, great. I'll be happy. I don't really care if he does or not. But I think that's the fight to make first, just because I think he loses to a lot of people in the top 5, top 10.
I mean, outstrike him, no, but out wrestle him? Like, are you really just not going to give Brock wrestling credentials credit here? Like, I mean, of course right. He could get Jon Jones to the mat. Of course. How long can he keep him there is the question. Jon Jones gets taken down. He got taken down by Gus, who had no wrestling background.
I agree, but that was a weird fight because Jon didn't know wrestling in that training camp. He did all boxing. True. The same as Reyes. Like, I don't think he had his wrestling coach Izzy against Reyes because he didn't think he would probably need it, and then Reyes did great in the wrestling department. So if Jon just goes balls to the wall and trains wrestling, I think it would be a bad day for Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I will give credit. I will give Brock credit for at least one takedown, one solid takedown. He's gonna get his hands together, and if he gets his hands together, Jon's going for a ride. But what happens right after that? I'm giving all the credit to Jon after that.
I think Brock Lesnar fighting Jones, like just getting his knee kicked out from underneath him for however long that fight lasts, is going to be a bad time too. From Carrie Eons, apologies if I mispronounce your last name, from the YouTube comments. What Holloway fight rematch you talking about? Volk fought him 2 times, doesn't need to take a third with Max, plus the real El Kukui already bet Max, a.k.a. Tony Ferguson. People be tripping. What is this question? What is she asking?
You know what? I saw the first part, but then I didn't read the second part, so I'm not sure where so I think this is my fault, actually.
Plus Max beat the real El Kukui already. Bet Max, a.k.a. Tony Ferguson. People.
I think this is a comment. Sorry. I thought that was a question.
Yes. I'm confused.
Yeah.
Max should fight Calvin Kattar. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
That's where we arrive at the end of that. Yes, I agree.
From Ollie in the YouTube comments, are you excited for the Diaz-Masvidal rematch, considering how one-sided the first fight was? I'd rather have Jorge fight Edwards. That was the fight. And where does Edwards go from here? Well, we talked about Edwards a lot at the beginning. I thought for sure Masvidal-Edwards was the fight to make, but apparently it's going to be Masvidal-Diaz II. I don't hate it just based on how the first fight ended. I don't see Diaz winning. But I think Casey and I, when we did our coffee talk after, with Danny Segura, our former coworker, and Esther, we just wanted the rematch based on how goofy the first fight ended. Like, not that we thought it would go differently, but there's people out there that are going to be like, oh, Diaz fights well in 4 and 5, and kind of take credit away from Masvidal. So I wanted them to run that back immediately. But Matt, what do you think?
I mean, sure, do the rematch. If you're not going to give Edwards a legit fight like he deserves, in Edwards and Masvidal, then yeah, give me the rematch. Like, no other fight makes sense. I mean, we know what the UFC is trying to do. They're trying to sell pay-per-views. They're trying to quote unquote pack the house, and there's no house to be packed. So they're trying to get ratings, obviously. So listen, they have to do the whole BMF thing again. Let's see if Masvidal brings the belt back with him, like all that kind of crap. Like, we need that. Or they need that, rather. Yeah. What we, as me personally, what I would rather have is the more competitive fights, which would be Masvidal and Edwards. But, we know what the UFC is going to do.
Yeah.
Casey?
Yeah, I don't really buy into the storyline that the first fight was completely uncompetitive or just complete blowout, because, and people keep forgetting this, is like Nate did come into that fight with an injury, because he has just fought Pettis maybe less than 2 months before that, or maybe 2 months, and he still it was somewhere around there. And when Nate caught that hot one, I think the kick that opened up that cut, it was literally the same cut that Pettis had opened up in that fight before, and it was the same stuff. It was the same cut. It just, for different ref, that fight goes for 5. I mean, for different ref, Masvidal Diaz keeps going. Or say that cut didn't open up. The thing is, I do think Masvidal wins that fight no matter what, but we didn't get the chance to see it, and that's what this is, So I don't mind them running it back. I feel bad for Edwards, but these guys want to make money. They're prize fighters. This is their window to get those bags of cash. So if they want to run it back, whatever. It's a fake belt. Anyway, that you can buy on their website for $250, so whatever.
If I'm not mistaken, too, did Diaz have like a knee injury or something, so he couldn't do as much cardio? Did he say that after?
I don't remember that one.
He did.
Maybe.
I think I remember seeing something like that.
I think it was that fight. So he's like, I always start slow, but I wasn't allowed. Like he said, since his cardio wasn't where it normally is, he was saving what he had for the later rounds, and then he never got the opportunity to go from there. I don't know. I don't know how true that is, but we'll find out.
I wouldn't mind seeing the rematch. I just remember being so disappointed when the ref stopped that fight because of the cut. It's like, oh.
I think it was the doctor.
Doctor. Well, either way, the doctor tells the ref,
yeah.
But I was just I don't mind the rematch. I mean, it's what.
It is what it is. It's 2020. It's 2021.
Yeah. If we can get fighters to fight that I actually know and they're not just these Contender Series guys that like I maybe seen like a 5-minute promo about how their parents hated them and that's why they got into fighting. I mean that's a win for me.
Hey, there you go. Hey, there's a bold prediction for International Fight Week 2021. A Contender Series vet will be in the main event or co-main event. How about that?
You saying a Contender Series veteran is going to main event International Fight Week?
Or co-main.
So you're saying Greg Hardy's going to main event International Fight Week?
Oh, he was Contender Series. I forget.
Yeah.
So you're saying Edmund Shabazi and Greg Hardy and Sugar Sean and Macy Barber are going to be the Hulk main card?
Just saying, like, those are some solid names right there.
They really are.
That promotion machine.
They really are.
Behind.
Like, if that was if those four were in the main card and then there was like a big main event fight, I'd be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. People know those names.
Yeah.
All right,
okay. Hey, if my guy Jeff Neal didn't get hurt and almost die.
Oh, yeah, he is a Contender Series too. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
I got this question coming up, and it's gonna be exciting. But this whole Contender Series thing, we all know why they're doing it. These fighters, they obviously get paid a lot less. With all these COVID guys dropping out, they need people just to put in there right anytime. But like, at what point, like tough? First few seasons of Tough, lots of good fighters in there. Then gradually, unless they put a new weight class like flyweights or a women's division, it got really watered down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
How long can Contender Series last where we're just getting really watered down weekly fights?
I think.
How much longer can you pull from this talent pool?
I think if they take break, like they're gonna need a longer break between seasons in the U.S. just for the actual talent pool to build up. I also think before this pandemic really hit, they wanted to really break out into Contender Series like China. They had Contender Series Brazil. I'm sure they could have, like Contender Series UK would have been amazing for that marketplace because they have so many fighters. Like imagine Paddy Pimblett fighting in Contender Series UK. Like that's a big story right there. But then you saw it happen to Brandon Loughnane in the U.S. one, so that's another story completely. But I think the pandemic really hurt the fact that they can't go international, and they need to take a longer break between seasons.
Yeah, I think it used to be kind of special, but now it's just all right. Much like Tough. Tough used to be a special thing. Then after a while, like okay, season 39. All right, cool. It's like you just kind of forget. But
right.
Facts. No, if they don't slow it down, we're going to be where boxing is, where you only care about the main event and sometimes the co-main event. Yeah. And it's just going to be a whole bunch of other names that nobody really knows.
Yeah. Well, it's essentially that's what we kind of complain about Bellator in a sense. But Bellator's prelims are essentially guys, or a lot of regional guys, maybe guys on one-fight contracts, and you don't really have to pay that much attention to Bellator prelims because these guys are that's just fine. You're only going to see them tonight. You already won't see them next week, or in a couple of weeks. But the main card matters, But I hope that's why I feel like we're getting into, especially fight nights, like just like all right, these are. Oh man, doing picks for fight nights now is just like, you used to be like, oh yeah, I remember that fight. Now it's like, well, I like that guy's hair, so I'm gonna pick him. I don't like this guy's nickname. He's gonna lose. That's essentially
this guy's name and last name ends in OV, and he's from Dagestan. Decision win.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's our deep after a decade working in the industry. It's like his name's got a lot of consonants. I don't know.
I like being at the Contender Series live. It's a lot of fun. Oh my God. I knew this was going to come from Yandra Thapa. Apology if I mispronounced your name. Ortega versus Zombie. Thoughts? Well, this fight is never going to happen. You guys all know my thoughts on the matter. Matt, if you don't know, this is the fight that I've been asking for probably 5 years. Yeah. I think it was UFC 214 was the fight you and I sat next to each other because we had gotten our stuff robbed. I think that was the card, if I'm not mistaken, that Ortega beat Moicano, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And I turned to you and I was like, Ortega versus the Korean Zombie needs to happen now. Because Zombie, I think, was coming back or had just beaten Dennis Bermudez or something along those lines. And you were like, oh, my God, that fight needs to happen. And that was how many years ago? And I've been talking about it ever since. But I am a superstitious man, and this fight is never going to happen. We're never going to see it, and it'll never get booked because anything I want to happen in MMA doesn't happen. Matt, your thoughts?
I agree, man. It's one of those fights that it's been escaping us for so long. It's one of those fights that should have been scheduled a while ago. I mean, hopefully it happens. Hopefully there's nothing silly that comes up. But, hey, it's 2020. Something probably will happen, and we're going to get robbed of some fun. I mean, it's just one of those stylistic matchup fights that you kind of dream of, and hopefully it comes together.
It has everything. It has everything I want. Like, Korean Zombie is one of the most creative grapplers in MMA. Like, getting twister submissions, Darce chokes. Like, his fight against Dustin Poirier remains my favorite fight of all time. But then you have Brian Ortega, who is just Gracie Jiu-Jitsu through and through. So it's just both contrasting styles. Korean Zombie is like one of the most. Both men are just some of the most durable fighters you'll see. Like, outside of injuries, like knee injuries, shoulder injuries, all that, like in the octagon. Let's not forget, they stopped the fight between rounds between Brian Ortega and Max Holloway. Like, Brian Ortega would have gone out and kept fighting. He wasn't going down, so he absorbed an insane amount of damage. The Korean Zombie, his shoulder just fell off his body against Jose Aldo, and then he was about 1 second away from beating Yair Rodriguez. So I think this has everything to be just an absolutely epic fight. Silver lining, there's a lot more heat between them since their first few fallout, especially after Brian Ortega slapped Jay Park in the face when they were sitting in the crowd. So there's clearly some heat. But it's never happened, so it doesn't matter.
Pre-pandemic drama.
Yeah, pre-pandemic drama.
Don't we wish we could have those problems now? Right.
Casey, your thoughts on this fight that'll never happen?
It's cool. I mean, as Ortega, I'm pretty.
Ortega has not fought since Holloway.
Jeez, man. That's tough, man. For Ortega to come out, that'd be a 2-year break at least? Feels like it.
Depending on when this fight happens, just about.
Yeah. Any fight between two top 5, top 10 featherweights is gonna be awesome, and especially these two gentlemen. If it happens, super cool. Hopefully no one gets the Rona. That's about it.
Jesus.
Because let's not forget, when the Korean Zombie took his 2-year break to do his mandatory military service, he came out after 2 years and knocked Dennis Bermudez dead on that Houston card. So 2 years is 2 years, but Korean Zombie did it. Brian Ortega could do it. Not saying it'll happen because this fight isn't going to happen, but I want this fight so badly. And I do think, I don't want to say Ortega will, I think the winner will get a title shot regardless, just because to beat Yair is like later on. That fight, and if Korean Zombie wins, I think he fights Volkanovski, and if Ortega wins, again, that's not like he's rematching Holloway, so Ortega Volkanovski would be fun too. I don't have a problem with either of those two getting a title shot. Though I feel bad for Yair because he has a win, and a spectacular win over Zombie, but he can't stay healthy either.
True, very true. Do you think that Ortega is maybe falling a little bit in love with his hands too much? Because he has a really nice slick boxing game.
He's got good hands.
He has real good hands.
Yeah, but it's like, don't you think he should use it more just to set up clinches, like instead of just standing in there trading?
I think he tried against Holloway, and Holloway is just that good.
People forget.
That's fair.
Because Ortega won't make excuses, but Ortega broke his hand badly in that fight, and we talk about the clinch. Yeah, because this clinch, and like Ortega, and I'm taking this for what Cub Swanson said. He said Brian Ortega has the strongest grip he has ever faced. And if he had if Ortega broke his hand in that fight, like he said he did, pretty badly, basically losing his entire grip on his left hand. So he had a hard time throwing punches, or hard time clinching and controlling. And that changes the fight. I'm not saying Ortega wins that fight, obviously, but it makes it more competitive. So I think there's a reason why you think that maybe Ortega's in love with his hands, because I just don't think. I think the last time we saw him, he just wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. So
no, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. Like I like his striking game. Like that's one of the things like I consider like underrated. But we know he's so good on the mat and in the clinch. Yeah. Like that should be like his go-to. I just don't want to see him shift more towards the striking game when he's so dominant in this one area. You know.
I don't think it's like mid 2000s Damian Maia where he fell in love with his Muay Thai after training with Vanderlei for a while. But Ortega's boxing is real crisp, and he did knock out Frankie Edgar. I think he was the first one to knock out Frankie Edgar, if I'm not mistaken. And then he tapped Cub with that standing guillotine. And then let's not forget, he fought Max Holloway, who's one of the greatest strikers in the history of the UFC.
Oh, for sure.
Not just featherweight division. So, but Ortega didn't go down. He stayed up there until they stopped the fight in between rounds for him. Saved him from himself. Poirier versus Ferguson. Who wins? And do we see Conor in 2020? And if so, against who? To answer the second question, I don't think we see Conor in 2020 at all. I think we can all agree with that. But Casey, Poirier Ferguson, who do you think wins that fight if it happens?
Oh, clearly the fans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just
the hospital bill.
Yeah. Well, insurance providers are going to lose because both those gentlemen are going to the ER after that fight.
You're not wrong.
I mean, I think Dustin is the second best lightweight right now, and I mean, I love Tony Ferguson. Obviously, he's an exciting fighter and all that stuff. I just don't. I think I don't know. I'm not Sean Al-Shadi, where like Tony Ferguson's like on this pedestal. And I really enjoy Tony and his skill set and stuff, but I think Dustin's just a better overall fighter and just doesn't get. Well, I don't say they both get hit, but no, it's just a hell of a fight. And if they fight 10 times, I would pick Dustin 7 out of those 10 times. But
you said Poirier is the second best lightweight, so I'm assuming after Khabib.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Maybe yeah.
Although, I was gonna say 2020 Justin Gaethje might be the best lightweight.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's man, I don't know.
Because I'm not taking anything away because Dustin Poirier knocked out Justin Gaethje, but Justin Gaethje himself said he got way too comfortable in that fight until he got knocked out.
Which he did. Yeah.
Which Trevor Whitman yelled at him about during the Tony Ferguson fight. And he had to remind him.
And we know
he's like, remember what happened when you fought Poirier? Yeah, he's like, remember what happened when you fought Poirier? And he's like, I got knocked out. He goes, yeah, let's not go back to that. But Matt, who do you think wins between Poirier and Ferguson if it happens?
This would be the hardest fight to call since, for me, like going into it, since Eddie against Dustin. Because like I had that fight so even, and then it ended up just being a crazy, mess of a back and forth fight. But I couldn't call it. I would say that like the betting line should be even. Like nobody should be a favorite. Nobody should be underdog. It should literally just say even when you go to the betting window. I would probably lean slightly towards Dustin though. But just by the tiniest of margins, because Tony is Tony, man. He's going to go out there and be crazy. He's going to be super creative. He's going to dance in the middle of the octagon as he's getting punched in the face like nothing happened. And Dustin's just going to keep moving forward. It's one of those fights. If it happens, like Casey said, man, the fans win.
I think we also have to. I think a lot of people are going to base their pick on Tony Ferguson's last performance, but unfortunately, if you look at that, like Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight Khabib in April, and then it got pushed back, and then the fight got changed up. And I love Justin Gaethje and I love Khabib as fighters. They're very different style fighters. Justin Gaethje is just violence all the time, and Khabib is much more obviously. Your face isn't going to just be destroyed after fighting Khabib. So Tony Ferguson himself said he's basically like they took that fight in November, and the fight was supposed to happen in April. So he basically had what's that like 5-month camp to prepare for Khabib, and then got a last minute change to Justin Gaethje in a completely different style fighter. So I don't know if he beats Justin Gaethje if there's a full camp, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say Tony Ferguson kind of got shafted a little bit by taking that fight against such a drastically different opponent. So I don't know. I agree with you though. It's 50-50 to me. The betting line should be even.
Is this one of those people are talking about fights, or has it been booked? I've been gone for a couple
Poirier
days.
Poirier said that he expected to fight Tony Ferguson next, and he has been offered a contract to fight him next, but he's technically in camp right now to be ready. All signs point to it. It's just not official. Though Michael Chandler did tweet a gif of a diamond not too long ago.
I was about to mention, I want to know where Michael Chandler is in all this because
dude, I'll watch. I want Michael Chandler to fight Anthony Pettis, but I'm not gonna say no to a Dustin Poirier fight.
That sounds good.
Gilbert Burns tweeted out a video of Michael Chandler, and you saw it today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
you saw him. Yeah, I'm into it.
So
yes.
New question.
From Joseph Bozo, where does Frankie Edgar go now at bantamweight? Crazy to think he's one to two fights away from a title shot. I mean, there's a lot of fights at bantamweight that have to happen before we can talk about 1 to 2 fights away. But Dominic Cruz, I think, is the only fight I want to hear from anyone. And Frank Edgar seems to agree. Matt, are you in agreement?
Am I in agreement with what now?
That Frank Edgar should fight Dominic Cruz?
I mean, sure, why not? I'm just glad he didn't get the title shot. I'm just glad he didn't jump over Aljo rather. I'm cool with it. Like you said, there's a ton of fights to make. Cruz would be a fun one. That would be one that, legendary career type matchup, right?
Mm-hmm.
With both guys that are like really big names that we don't necessarily need to see in a title fight right now. So give me that one. Give me that one.
We can both those gentlemen can be in title fights. No, don't.
What are we doing, a 3-way with Aljo? Yeah. What's happening right now?
They'll do their thing. Let Aljo and Jan do their little thing. But I think Frankie and Cruz is absolutely the fight to make, and I think the winner of that will get a title shot, and I think justifiably so.
Probably so.
Well, we also have Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sandhagen. That's all booked up, and Marlon Moraes is still the number 1 ranked bantamweight. He was already supposed to fight Peter Yan. Technically, Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling is not even official yet, though Dana White has now finally said Aljo's probably next. So if Aljo and Yan fight, Marlon Moraes, Corey Sandhagen fight, and then Garbrandt's gone, and then Cruz, Edgar fight, bantamweight still rules, and I think the winners are the fans, and I would not care who gets the title fight after all those.
I actually think Marlon Moraes is the best bantamweight in the world. But unfortunately, the way the rankings and fights work out, so we'll see. Yeah,
before the Frank Edgar fight and before all these fights were matched up, I wanted Cruz Marlon real bad. And so did Marlon. And Dana White seemed interested in it. Just didn't happen. I love Marlon Corey Sandhagen. Like, if Corey Sandhagen beats Marlon, why not give him a title fight?
Because, unfortunately, this is prize fighting.
Yeah.
Well, this is prize fighting. This isn't.
You're not wrong.
This isn't about who deserves. Unfortunately.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Oh, look at this.
Tim Aqua, Matthew Wells. I love the number 7. You are bringing some light too.
Yes, appreciate it. Shout out.
Where's the number 7?
Over my left shoulder here.
Oh, yeah, there.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. There you go.
Yes, sir.
Respect.
One of my.
You painted that one, right?
Yeah, I did.
Is it for sale?
It can be.
Yeah, I was about to say, someone want it? Go buy it from Matt.
It can be. Yeah, slide me a DM. Let's talk.
Who's behind the plant? I see the Anderson.
Other way.
That would be DeMarco Murray.
Oh,
DeMarco Murray is stiff arming some grayscaled New York Giant player, and then the Dez right there is kind of covered up by the plant. So yeah.
DeMarco Murray is a name that I have not thought about since he was on my fantasy team that one
year. Dude, he had like a 99 year in Madden, and then it was just like fell off.
Yeah, because he went to go play for Chip Kelly and it didn't work out for him.
Man,
anyway,
crazy.
You know these names, Casey. We don't have to explain them to you.
Yeah. Sprats ball. Sprats. All right, let me see what we got else. Hey, you know what? This is kind of a broad question, but we haven't even talked about it.
Joseph Boza, thoughts on this week's Overeem versus Sakai card? Well, it is the main event of a card that exists, as we talked about on Between the Links. It's about the only fight that I'm super interested in right now. There's obviously fun fighters or names that I recognize, but this fight actually has title implications on the line for whatever that means in the heavyweight division. Not surprised Overeem took it. He's down to scrap with anyone. But Matt, what do you think of Overeem versus. Speaking of Contender Series,
yes,
Augusto Sakai, I think was Contenders Brazil, if I'm not mistaken.
One of those. But yes,
Bellator veteran. Bellator veteran.
Yeah, I was gonna
say.
Yeah. No. Yeah, this is kind of like what I was saying earlier, right? Contender Series main events. Yeah. I think this is also kind of like one of those. It's too much too soon type of thing for him.
Nah.
I mean, you're fighting Alistair Overeem. This is going to be his 65th professional MMA fight, and you're only on fight 17?
Something like 18,
yeah,
I think.
18.
I think this is his 18th fight.
That's a lot to chew off, man. That's a lot to chew off, and especially considering like he's got a couple nice finishes, but he also has a couple of fights that he could have lost to in the UFC. So I think it's a little bit too much, but it's going to be one that makes Overeem looks really good, in my opinion.
This is a fight that Overeem's going to headline pretty much any fight night he's on, and he just needs a dance partner right now. It's a young guy in the UFC heavyweight in Sakai. I think it is what it is. I don't hate the matchup. Like, it makes sense if you look at the division, just how it's all laid out. I don't know if it's too much too soon, but he's coming off a split win over Blagoy Ivanov, and he has a split win over Arlovsky, and those are two former champions of their, like, Ivanov, obviously former champ of World Series of Fighting, Arlovsky, former champion of the UFC. So he has 2 wins over 2 former champs. Let's see if he can make it 3, but I do think Overeem wins. Not easily, but I think he wins. Casey?
I could easily see Sakai winning this. I think it's kind of ridiculous that Sakai had to get into the UFC through the Contender Series when he clearly was already, UFC level. But yeah, you know what? Actually, as much as I like this fight, this isn't a main event for a fight night. This doesn't. I don't think we need 5 rounds of this fight. I think we're gonna see enough in 15 minutes. I'm just, But
yeah,
no, 100%.
I mean, it's a good matchup. It makes sense ranking wise. But this card, I'm just looking at this card. While there are fighters I want to see, like, I'm obviously,
that's what I said.
I'm excited to see Michel Pereira, but the matchups, as far as like just straight matchups, nothing really kind of blows me away. But Crystal Cruz fighting Mr. Brian Kelleher.
Yeah, but he's not fighting Ricky Simone anymore. That fight freaking ruled. And then I think Sijara Eubanks was supposed to fight Macy Chiasson on that card before Macy fell out. So there were a lot of this fight card was great, not great, but it was serviceable, and so a lot of these fights fell out. What's up?
Yeah, I told him I'm like I love the Julia Vila. She was supposed to fight Nico Montano, but
rematch.
That fight got a rematch. That fight got moved, unfortunately, because of the Rona. But this is a
it's an injury / COVID riddled card,
which is every card pretty much. I know we make all these graphics about these future matchups coming that are booked, all these great main events and stuff, man. But like I look at that and I just look at the past and how many matchups we've lost, and like I look at these future title fights, I'm like, oh god, I don't know how we keep. I don't know. It'll be quite the miracle if we get all these title fights that we see that are coming up next couple months, that they actually happen.
And we have the light heavy return of OSP. I thought he looked great at heavyweight. Probably should have stayed there, but I'm not his coach.
Yeah, he's going against Alonzo Menifield. That's going to be a very tough matchup for him because Alonzo Menifield comes to take your head off.
Did both those guys they both weighed in, right, at the last event, and it was like after, right? They weighed in, and then it was like, they weighed in. It was like on the actual day of the fight, they pulled OSP off the card because of the Rona. So that'd be actually interesting. I wonder how OSP is going to do that, how he's going to handle that weight cut again, or even Menifield. So
Menifield's not a small cat either.
Yeah. So hey, but Michel Pereira's fine. Michel Pereira should be on the card. Like, just put him on every card. It doesn't matter if he makes weight. Just put him on the card. Come on, UFC, get with it.
All right.
Okay. Wait. You know what? I want you to talk about. Let's talk about this one.
Garrett Trammell. Should they scrap Silva versus Hall for Silva versus Lawler? Robbie had fun fights at the end of his career. You've already all heard my thoughts on this possible fight. On Between the Links, Casey's nodding his head, so I'll let him start. What do you think about Silva versus Lawler instead of Silva versus Hall?
I didn't watch Between the Links this week, but I'm going to assume that Jed just started taking his shirt off and sweating when you started talking about Anderson Silva versus Robbie Lawler. And
I couldn't tell you because it was an audio-only one.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. You could hear the sweat glistening off him thinking about it. No, to me, Anderson Silva versus Robbie Lawler, that's absolutely the fight to make. That's just, Anderson Silva, Robbie Lawler, they're both legends. I assume Robbie Lawler is going to be a future Hall of Famer just based on just his longevity and just how.
I think he's going to be one of those cats that's going to be in for a fight and an individual.
Yeah. So to me, like they're both on the Legends tour right now, I feel. And Silva Lawler, because right now Hall is he's still a what do you call it? He's still a fighter that could make a title run. Yeah, he's still there.
He's in the mix.
In the mix, yeah. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. But Anderson Lawler, just come on, let's get these guys going. We don't need Anderson Lawler is a great fight because we don't need any build up for it. We can just throw old highlights. We don't need you don't need to sell that fight. We just know who they are and we just want to see it. Because like, oh cool, it's a video game fight we get to watch now. So yeah, because if Anderson beats Uriah Hall, what then what? I don't know. And if Uriah Hall beats Anderson, yeah, okay, cool. But I don't know, Hall Silva. Anderson Silva versus Robbie Lawler that's just beautiful. I just want to see them match up, look at each other.
I don't know, man. I really like the Silva versus Uriah Hall fight as a fight. I know it's like irrelevant to the division and everything, and Silva Lawler sells more. I like Silva versus Uriah Hall. Everyone keeps talking about how Robbie should do this. This is what he needs. This is what he deserves. Robbie Lawler hasn't said anything. So for all we know, he doesn't even want to fight Anderson Silva. I know he'd fight anyone. But I don't know what Robbie is going through Robbie's mind. If he wants to just keep making a run at the title, it's not going to be against Anderson Silva. But Matt, your thoughts?
I'm with you in that I like the Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva matchup because in a way it's like the Izzy versus Silva matchup in a way. Yep. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more competitive, not so much like, hey, we get a lot of cool photos from this fight. But
the best photos.
Yeah, no kidding. Shout out to Esther. It's just I'm cool with either way, honestly. Either way, like you said, like neither fight really does much for whoever wins. I mean, at this point, like I don't know what a Uriah Hall win will do for him. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have a huge name on the resume.
Gets him
like
a nice paycheck.
Yeah, gets him a nice paycheck. Gets a nice name on the resume. But what does it do in terms of rankings for him? I don't know if it does much. But I mean, what does Robbie look like at 185? I don't know.
We saw it at Strikeforce.
Robbie,
it's been a while.
But he has some monster amazing fights. You're crazy.
I also like if we wrap this show and they announce that Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva is off in favor of Anderson Silva, Robbie Lawler, I'll be like, awesome, great, cool, I love it. But if it doesn't happen, I'm fine with it. Like, we're talking about Anderson and Robbie Lawler deserving all of these big title fights, but like Uriah Hall lost out on the first Anderson Silva fight for gallbladder surgery. Loses out on the Jacare fight because Jacare tests positive for COVID. Loses out on the Yoel Romero fight because Yoel Romero gets hurt. So at some point, Uriah Hall deserves a break. So for all this talk of Anderson and Robbie Lawler deserving stuff, throw Uriah Hall a bone and give him a fun fight against his hero.
That's a fantastic point, man. Because I mean, Uriah Hall's been literally sleeping in the Fortis gym.
He really has, man.
And I mean, we've been keeping a lot of these fights together with duct tape and a prayer. So whatever gets him to the octagon and gets him paid, like that's what he deserves.
Like I was in Jacksonville for when that fight fell through, and his coach was talking, and he's like, Uriah is gonna destroy Jacare. He was so confident that we were going to see a brand new Uriah Hall who's, like you said, is living at Fortis MMA. Like he's living in the back room, like going through all of this. He's going through so much to just become a better fighter, and he's having the rug pulled out from underneath him. I'm fine with him getting a shot against Anderson Silva.
Facts.
All right. All right, we're at hour 20, gentlemen.
Already?
Yeah.
We calling it. All right.
Hey,
well,
I didn't get a chance to hear it because I looked at Twitter briefly. But what happened in the DC Ariel interview? I guess DC finally had his kind of big interview.
DC said he's done fighting. He's absolutely done fighting. He only wants to fight for titles, and he understands it's probably not going to happen. Dana White said that Daniel Cormier requested his name be removed from the USADA pool, which officially removed him from competition. And Daniel Cormier admitted that Stipe deserved the win, and after rewatching it, he understands. He goes, Stipe won. End of story. I'm retired. It is what it is. So Daniel Cormier was very gracious with his loss. He also said, which caused more feathers to be ruffled, was after his loss to Jon Jones, Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White cut him a check for $1 million, which I hope Jon Jones got $1 million check too then, because he won, even though USADA happened. But Chris Cyborg commented on it. I'm sure a lot of other fighters saw it and goes, where's my check guy? Where's my check guy? But anyway, that's kind of the summary, if I'm not mistaken, right, Matt?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I caught it. Yeah.
Did he talk about the eye poke and the significance and
he said that
Goddard didn't believe him?
He said that he doesn't believe he'll need surgery.
What happened? No, but
I haven't finished. I haven't watched.
We don't know about in detail.
Thing.
Okay, I was just wondering if we know. I guess I gotta watch it. That's what I was more curious about. I was more curious how much it affected him during the fight, and the fact that why didn't Goddard believe him? Because refs literally never see eye pokes. They only base it on the reaction. So essentially, Goddard just goes, "No, you're lying," or not, you're lying. You're mistaken. I would say that because a lot of guys get punched in the eye and they think it's eye pokes. I won't say lying. That's not the right word. You're mistaken.
Yeah. DC. They also asked DC, "Why didn't you leave your gloves in the octagon?" Because he knew it would be his last. And he goes, Stipe won. That's his moment. I wasn't taking it away from Stipe.
I think that would have been different if that was like an arena with a crowd and everything. I think he would. I
agree.
I think he would have done that because I mean he hung around for the Jon Jones losses. You know, everybody has seen the crying memes. Like he hung around for that. So why would he not hang around? I think it was just because it was like in a quiet environment. He's like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, he pieced out real quick right over to the interview thing, and then he went right to the hospital. I bet not being able to see out of his eye freaked him out, and he wanted to get to the hospital real quick.
That too. But also, like, even if Goddard did see the eye poke, like, it wouldn't have changed anything.
No,
wouldn't have changed anything.
Oh, absolutely, it changes something, man. What are you talking about? If Goddard sees the eye poke, first of all, DC gets a break, and the ref comes in, and the ref's gonna go look at the eye, and go, "Oh, your eye is messed up." They bring in the doctor, and if that doctor looks at DC's eye and goes, "Oh, I can kind of see your brain through your cornea right now. That's not good." That fight might get stopped right then. You know, I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Dude, DC could not see. If the ref at any point looked at the eye, not the ref, sorry, the doctor looked at the eye, that fight is over. He's like, "No, your eye's screwed up. You can't fight."
Maybe.
So that fight completely changes.
But what if DC is like, "No, I want to keep fighting." And it's DC that you're talking to. You're not going to take this opportunity away from DC, are you? You don't want to be that doc that takes away from DC.
You mean to tell me the doctors that took away the BMF title fight would take away a fight from Daniel Cormier? If the BMF title's not sacred, I don't know what is in this sport.
Hey, it's the only true title that matters.
I also go ahead, Casey.
No, I just. Now that we're talking about BMF again, I remember just how angry I got, like how sanitized.
Oh, no, dude.
The whole BMF. It is baddest motherfucker. That's what it stands for. Stop this BMF bullshit. It is baddest motherfucker.
The baddest motherfucker belt. I like going into it, forget the weight cut, forget injuries, just show up and scrap. Don't even wear gloves, man. Just fight inside of an octagon. That's what the real baddest motherfucker should do, but
thank you.
I digress. I wanted to ask, like, I never got the opportunity, but when he announced the BMF title, I was like, do they have to make championship weight for this fight? Like, it's a belt? But no one asked that question. I never got the opportunity to ask. Anyway, and we don't have any more questions, right, Casey? We're kind of running up on time.
Yeah, we just got some rando things, you know.
We went long. We didn't get to do it last time, so I didn't have a problem going a little long this time.
Yeah. I think we're good.
All right. Well.
Oh, but Matthew Wells, you were wrong about the eye poke. It did make a big difference. Just wanted to point that out, and it has facts.
Sure. I think
I appreciate your opinion, though.
You guys can throw down on a future Between the Links episode and have this exact conversation, because Matt, I think you'll do great on it. Maybe you can go try and give Jed another loss like he did last week. But anyway, Matt, you know the drill. You didn't get to do it last time. You plugged your art, but what do you have to say about anything happening right now in sports or otherwise?
Well, yeah, I guess it's like the little promo thing, right? Little promo thing.
Everyone. For those of those shows, Matt is going to put his promo per usual.
Sure. So I guess I'll go with what I was going to do last week, and it was very relevant last week because it's one of those things that hit social media. It starts off with basically just get your advice from professionals. And what I'm referring to is the Eddie Alvarez tweets that were really hot last week, talking about, his questioning of a mask mandate and everything like that. Listen, like when you go to train for a fight, you're going to go to professional coaches to train alongside other professional fighters. When you're at the top of the game, you usually have the best of the best telling you what's best to prepare for this opponent. And in the world today, our opponent right now is COVID-19, right? So who are the professionals we turn to? The scientists, the doctors, those that have spent their entire lives studying and preparing for the worst, which is what we're dealing with right now. So basically, those are the professional trainers that we should be listening to right now, right? They know what's going on. So to go out there and just randomly question, should we be wearing masks? Should we be doing this thing that these guys that have spent their entire lives, like when you step into any operating room anywhere, they're always wearing masks. Why? Because it stops the spread of, micro droplets of saliva and things like that in open wounds, which is very, very hazardous. So the funny thing is that Eddie initially, he posted a handful of pictures with him and his family wearing masks. And then all of a sudden he does this 180 where he goes real conspiratorial on it. And it's just listen to the folks that know what they're talking about. Nobody likes wearing a mask everywhere they go. I don't like having to remember when I step out of the car or go back to the car and be like, oh shit, I forgot my mask. Let me go back in and grab it. Just put it on. It just shows you care about what's going on. It shows that you care about the other people around you, whether or not you believe it's 100% effective, 50% effective, whatever. Just listen to the folks that have spent their entire lives studying these sorts of things, telling us what's best to do. And even if it's not effective, the best intention is that, hey, I'm showing I'm caring about the person next to me. So at the end of the day, the message is get your advice from professionals, not random people on the internet.
Well said, Matt Wells. Well said. Casey, your thoughts on anything you want to talk about?
Wear a damn mask. Register to vote. Black Lives Matter.
Boom.
God, man, my promo's gonna be so much worse. I have to plug. Hold on, let me go get something real quick.
Hey Matt, so now it's kind of like one of those situations where you're hanging out with a common friend and that common friend leaves, and then it's just like, hey, so what's going on? No, I'm joking. So what's up,
All
man?
right. I'm back, and I have to give a shout out to, I got the same package as you, Casey, from the Crystal Council. I pretty much got the same things as you, except for whatever reason I didn't notice they were all labeled until I had thrown everything away. So I don't know what crystal is what. So if you're watching this, tell me what I got. I also got some stickers, some candles, things. Didn't know this was coming, but all of a sudden this massive box showed up on my front door, and I was pleasantly surprised from our friends over at the Crystal Council. Casey, if you have the list, you tell me. Yeah, see, yours looks so much cooler than mine.
Dude,
Your giant crystal?
It's a dinosaur egg. It's not a crystal. It's
mine doesn't have any white. Mine is just brown.
Oh.
It's just mine is just a football.
Yeah, this is legit like 35 pounds at least, yeah.
Oh, it's massive. But I got a lot of other cool stuff. So shout out to the Crystal Council for sending all that fun stuff. And Jessica for keeping up the Crystal Keys to Victory on Twitter. There she is, Jessica Crystal Crew. So anyway, for Jose, that's Matt. That's Casey. Anything else you guys want to say before we sign off? Or are we signing off?
I think we're signing off. And
we're signing off.
I want to say hi to Crystal Crew. Jessica Crystal Crew and Bean, her amazing detective dog.
Shout out to Bean. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to all the Crystal Crew. But for Matt, that's Casey. I'm Jose. We'll see you next week at the normal time. We're out.